So in the last video we started to talk about divs and layouts and floats and some of these other things in the previous videos. I wanted to kind of bring it all together and show you how you'd start to use divs inside of divs and layouts within layouts. So let's go ahead and get started here. We'll create a new HTML page. So let's create a div, and then we'll give it a style. And then so the first thing we'll do with that style is we'll give it a solid border, and we'll do it in pixel. And then to start off, let's also give it a width here. Well, let's make sure that worked correctly, and then we'll put some okay. So that works. Okay. Now let's go and put in a width, and then let's say 400 for testing. Normally you do wider, and I'll explain this a little bit later. But so okay, we have that. Let's save it. We'll overwrite this other page. And then bring it up in our browser. Okay, so one of the things you can notice about this is when we give it a fixed width, it's the line. The line around the div is fixed at that width. So let's just kind of go through and change the size a little bit so you can see how it reacts. Now, roughly how big a pixel is. So this is going from 400 pixels to 600 pixels. So you can see that. So we'll go into resolutions in a later video. I don't want to throw too much at you at once here. So the next thing let's do is let's actually put a smaller div within that div. And then we'll do the same thing. We'll give it a border. And then let's give this one a width of 300 pixels. And then and actually let's put some additional things in here to make it a little more clear. So we'll put margin equals we'll do 15 pixels, and then padding be 15 pixels. That should be good. And then we'll do the same thing with our inner div. Okay, so what do we have so far? We have a div, and then within that we have a div, and we've given it some margins and some padding, and then the inner one has a sentence. So let's make sure this is saved, and then let's hop over to our browser and bring that up. Okay, so I hope this is getting a little more clear now, some of the things that you can do with divs. So we have an outer div, and then we have an inner one, and then we can, just for fun, just put another one inside that one. And then we'll make this one half the size of the other one, 150 pixels. And then so we have another. So that can go on as many times as you want. So this is generally the way you do layouts, is you take an outer div and then you give it some size. A lot of the pages that you'll be making are what they call fixed width, so you'll pick a width, and then it makes it a lot easier to work in, because as long as you pick a reasonable width, it's going to look the same on all screens and all browsers. When you don't pick a width, what happens is it tends to want to put it as wide as the screen can get. So it makes it a little more unpredictable about how it'll look in different browsers and different screen resolutions, and then you'll have to go to more sizing. Typically, in an informational site, you'd use a fixed width. So say you have a restaurant and you have maybe 5 or 6 links, and you don't have online ordering or anything like that. One of the links is, say, your menu. You've got a contact us. You've got an awards. That's typical of a fixed width. You want it to look the same to everybody. You don't have a huge amount of information you want to put on the page, and so you're all right. An example of one where you wouldn't do fixed width and you just let it go all the way to the edge of the screen is a site that you're like an Amazon, where you're trying to get as much on screen as possible. So Amazon has a lot of products to sell, and so if you've got a really wide screen, they want to make use of that as much as possible. So we'll go over that a little bit later. In this video, I just wanted to mostly go over that you can put a div inside of a div. And then so let's get a little more advanced here. So let's we'll get rid of some of these inner ones. The one we just made, and then one before that. So let's do something typical what you'd see in a and this is assignment 2 is going to be sort of based off of this. So let's give it a, we'll just, I'll copy and paste, because we're going to be doing pretty much the same thing with all these. Okay, and this one we'll give it less border and padding, just so you can see where it is, but we don't want it to affect the look too much. And we'll actually get rid of the width here. So what does that do? The outer div, and I'll explain it. Our outer div has a fixed width, and then what happens is our inner div tries to use as much of that as possible. So let's, and you know what we'll do? Let's just give it a sentence for now. We won't do too many things at once. Okay. And actually, I think we've gotten to the point we can probably remove the margin and padding. If anybody has any questions, post it in the comments about that. We'll remove the margin and the padding here, so we have a little more realistic of a site. And okay, so see how this line is a little bit thicker? That's actually the inner div has used all of its space that it can. So what you'll end up seeing a lot of times is so when you're in a site like a good example is Facebook, where they have the, and let's actually try to mimic something like that. So and let's specifically set our margins to 0 pixels and our padding to 0 pixels, and then so we'll go to a color blue. Well, let's do this. Let's do background color blue. And then let's give it a font weight, bold. And then let's see how this... Okay, and then we'll okay, so you can, and let's, well, we'll leave that for now. So you can see, like when you're on a site like Facebook, they'll have that, they'll have a div on the top here, and then they'll start putting even more divs. So so you'd have like the name of your site or whatever across the top, and then you'd have a another div that you might want to float it on the side, and then you'd have, like we talked about before, something like a navigation. You'd have home, products, about, oh. Okay, and let's give that, just so we can see it, a border. So we can see that's floating left, and then now if we put another div, and I hope I'm not going too fast. Actually, what I'll do here is let me kind of let this page sit here for a second, so anybody who's trying to copy this down in their own Dreamweaver or trying to follow along can see this. So you can pause this here and copy as needed. So let's refresh the page again. Okay, so what's happened here? On the top we have our page name, and then on the left we have our navigation, and then in the middle here we have our where we actually start putting our page content. And then so we have this div to work with, and then so this is typical of like a 2-column layout. I'm running a little long in the video here, so let me stop here, and then and any questions you have, post in the comments area, and then this is kind of an introductory video to your assignment, because your assignment will be based off of something like this.